All right, it's 5 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Is there on the list? Okay, Emily? Clark? Here. Shalaka?
Here.
Tomke?
Here.
Lopez Ferraro?
Here.
Olson?
Here.
All right. Any public comments?
If you're here for an agenda item, you can speak during that agenda item.
Minutes from previous meetings. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve. I'll second.
Okay, okay, all right. One or the other. Take your pick. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Any written communications received? Acknowledge reports from departments, code enforcement update. Who has that?
I'll take it. So we've got in the packet just a quick RFC. 72 open and active code enforcement cases currently. In June, we were pretty busy as we had the code enforcement officer on staff. So we had 51 cases created in June, 18 closed, and 11 of those 72 have been referred to Mountain Bay Metro and are in various stages of enforcement. And then you see on page 12 of the packet, the running list of active cases. I think the next agenda item is that 3020 Mountain View. Correct on that?
Yeah, we
Yep.
should probably acknowledge this one.
Yep.
First. Any questions on this particular one? Maybe a motion to acknowledge?
So move.
I'll second.
A motion by Clark, second by Olson on the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Unfinished business. Update on RAS or repair.
The second part of that, the A.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Update on the 3020 Mount View Avenue property maintenance issue and county's tax delinquent property acquisition process.
Yeah, I think most of you are probably aware with the 3020 Mount View, but it's been vacant for approximately going on 8 years. Which over that time it has accumulated unpaid taxes and fees from the village for mowing the property. But we've actually had several conversations with the county, Jen and myself have, regarding this property. The county's planning on taking that in August. So they'll take possession of that due to unpaid property taxes. But since then, since that conversation with county, I was actually able to speak with the property owner of record, not the deceased individual who, but her closest relative. And she's actually pretty excited for the county to take it from them. So as bizarre as that sounds, yes. So there's apparently a pretty substantial medical lien that was placed on the property when the relative that was living there passed away. So, we're currently, Mountain Bay Metro is currently seeking individual of interest for the missing key that gets into the structure. So Yeah, so there was a lack of communication between family members, and a squatter actually took possession of the key and was in the house for a period of time. And now Bay Metro is trying to track him down. So once we get that key, we'll be able to get into the property and do an internal assessment of the structure and see if we actually need to proceed with raising the property, or if it can be potentially repaired. And then the county can take care of those repairs and put it back on the market. So it's kind of it's moved forward in the last 6 weeks farther than it has in the last 6 years. So kind of excited about that, actually. It's progressing in the right direction at least. So that one's I think we'll see where we can get to. We will be maintaining the property as far as mowing goes through the end of the year or end of the summer. And that's actually, since we're not gonna get reimbursed for any fees that we place on it this year. Certainly Parks Department has been started this week with mowing the property. Otherwise, if we have Riverside do it like we normally would, we would just be incurring the fees for that mowing. So I think it saves us a little bit to have staff go through there and mow the property quick on a weekly basis. So anything else you wanted to add, Jen?
I think you got it all.
Any questions or comments or anything?
My only question was, as far as the Mount View address, have we had neighbors communicating with us? I guess, how has that been going?
Yeah, they communicate with
Are
us.
they understanding of the?
Yeah, the immediate neighbor to the west, she had actually approached me and one of the other staff members about a month ago when I was on site. And she informed us of somebody being in the property. So that's how we got the lead on that. So the neighbors do keep an eye on it. The neighbors behind them are routine complainants about the condition of the yard. So, but yeah, I mean, the neighbors, they're aware of it.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I just drove by there here about a week or so ago and I was looking, I thought, what is going on? Why isn't anything ever moving on this property? Okay, any other questions or concerns? Okay, so then I can go to unfinished business. Update on res or repair order for Aspen Street Apartments located at 4911, 5003, 5007, 5011, 5103, and 5107 Aspen Street.
I don't have as lengthy of a update on that one as 3020 Mountain View. I do know that new ownership has an additional handyman that they've used that is working on repairs over on that property. I've not been back on site yet this summer, so we're hoping to get to an on-site meeting soon. It's just with our workload this year, we haven't been able to get to it. So.
The new owner though they're aware that this is on there and they're striving to make some improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it's, they've got a lot of the new owners have a lot of stuff going on with a lot of their properties, and visually to me, they're making progress on all of their properties. So they also own Stillwater Landing, so a lot of activity in there. They're under new management in Stillwater Landing, so entirely new management staff has come in there, so.
Any other questions?
Is there any health concerns with, I know we had some like mold issues and stuff inside that would make it more of a drastic issue, or for the residents versus?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, that is definitely a concern. I mean, that's, and that's, definitely try and focus on that, with working with ownership on that. That was, we can try and make that a higher priority this month.
Did Marty, the fire inspector, has he done a reassessment and has he cleared any of the issues that were found in fire inspection?
Not that I have asked him specifically about in the last 2 weeks,
Okay,
so.
we usually see Marty fairly frequently for some pre-con meetings and he hasn't been at the last couple, and so
No,
we
I,
could,
I saw him this morning and I failed to ask about it.
okay. That would be the other
Discuss
thing
that other
to,
stuff.
that if they were making improvements on the,
Yeah,
those fire pieces.
yeah.
Anything else? Okay. We'll go to item 7, discussion and or action on proposed amendments to chapter 50 nuisance.
So after our conversation 2 months ago, we did split the chapter half and half because it's a full chapter on potential amendments. This would be sections 100 through 102 as a start. You can see we did make substantial changes. We really cut a lot out because it was somewhat redundant. And in reviewing from other municipalities, they've limited it down. So that was kind of the approach we took here, just kind of looking for some feedback on what you thought about the proposed amendments.
Significantly shorter read.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I was trying to read what they took out versus
Yeah.
what was, and it was like, okay, no, what did I? Any questions or comments on this? I mean, it's pretty lengthy, as far as what they took out versus what they put back.
Anyway, as far as the content, like I said in the last meeting, it's hard for myself at least to know anything about the content because it's well outside my area of expertise, but it's much more succinct. It seems pretty easier by far to read, so I think staff is content that it contains the information it needs to contain. I would make a motion to acknowledge or approve, whichever you're looking for.
Motion to approve, I think. Motion by Brent. Do I have a second?
I would second.
On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
It's on the back
Opposed? So carried.
So I think what because the ordinance would still go to the board for approval. We will focus for our next meeting on the next chapters, which is not chapters, sections. And we'll bring that back to you, but without the track changes for that first piece. But we'll wait to take it to board until all the changes are made for all of 50 at one time.
That makes
Yep.
sense.
So you'll still see this section back, it just won't have all the red in it. And then two, if there are things that come up, we can still make changes to that section, or things that you think about, we can still make changes to that section.
Yeah, my issue was I was just trying to get in whether, like, as far as like dirt piles and stuff, if it actually covered it farther, that we didn't lose it, that it was still there, and things like that.
Yeah, and I would say it is broader, but what I tried to do is like search the words from our old one to make sure that it was in there. It just isn't in there with all the detail. Like it says, like you shouldn't have fireworks. It doesn't go into that are so many feet and for so long, and right,
Right.
like it just says no.
Like vehicles and all that stuff. Okay, item 8, discussion and or action on neighbor concerns regarding the maintenance of village-owned parcel at 3006 Foxtail Court.
So I had an RFC in the packet. I think we have both neighbors represented tonight. Okay, Just one? Okay,
I'm at 3002, 3004.
Okay.
And then 5-year-old and easy.
okay, of your duplex. Okay. So there is the lot at 3006 Foxtail it's a village-owned lot. It's about a half acre. It's never been developed because it provides us access to a drainage way that's in the back. And the neighbors on each side have had some differences about the mowing of that property. And as the RFC discusses, we don't have issue if neighbors want to mow those lots. They can often get to it more often than we can. We are just really trying to keep woody vegetation out of it, and so we can keep maintenance or access to the back. So we had said to the two neighbors, one who would like it mowed more frequently, that's the gentleman that's here tonight. And the other neighbor would like it to be kept more natural for wildlife and pollinators. And we had said half and half, and there was disagreement about the half and half. I do have the reports in here from Mountain Bay Metro. And we said, you know, we're gonna bring it to the committee, we're gonna have a discussion. It's 7 individuals, you're all residents, we can talk it through on what's the best method going forward and have a determination on how we proceed.
Anybody have comments or questions or?
For our discussion, if we want to share anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did any of the property owners wanna? Okay, if you wanna come up to the front and state your name and address for the record.
I live in Dalton at 150992 Stone Crop Road.
Okay,
I own the duplex next. Well, since 2011, I think that one was finished.
okay.
And they're narrow lots, and everybody, it's always does that. It's got an empty lot next to it, you cut a little further. So since 11, so that's 14 years now, my renters have been cutting part of that lot. And this spring when Cody put a trailer out there, our neighbor went, that's when all this stuff started. But since that same time, according to Google Maps, she's been cutting as much of your lot as he has been. So I don't see where the issue is. I think this is all a waste of all of our time. She's upset that Cody's cutting it, and I got no idea why. The only thing I can possibly relate it to is when I first started on 2003 and 2005, she came out and hollered at me the first time I started hauling nails on it. I built both of them. She does not like renters in that neighborhood. When she bought and built, she was sold it to her as a condominium. The whole lot was, the whole street was gonna be condominiums. Because in her opinion, renters are, lesbians are, they don't keep their places clean and it's trashy. No place, I mean, it's not a low rent district. But she's, I don't know what's got her so riled now about cutting the grass, other than she wants the bees to live there.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you. Anybody else wanna? Okay, state your name and address.
Cody Fairfire, I live at 3002 Foxtail Court. Coming from Jeff here. This started when we did move in there. I just started mowing what it looked at, had already been mowed. And I was weed whacking some of it just to knock it down because of, at the time when we moved in, the ragweed was about waist high, and me and my daughter are very allergic to it. So I just kind of wanted to knock the grass down, and she came out, instead of talking to me, she started yelling, screaming, obscenities, among other things. I stopped what I was doing, stopped, and I actually got into contact with either John or Brent, who was the supervisor over, I think it was whoever was working before you, Jamie, in your position.
Keith.
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 It was whoever was, it was a lady.
Carrie.
She got Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, okay.
Carrie, that is who I spoke with, and then she passed me along to whoever her boss was. I don't know if that's John or Brent or who is that runs everything. But I, at that time, got permission that from that person that if I can mow and my trailer would sit on the edge of that property. And I just keep mowing, what is it? And I said that I will, there's no liability for you. I don't want any part of, like, if something were to happen to me, it's part of what my insurance and my property. And that also if I would pay for the gas to mow the whole property. I offered that because where I live, I want it to look nice. I do not want it, and plus I'm being allergic to all that grass. I don't want that to mess with my health or my daughter's health. So that's why I went the route I did. I'm also an employee of the county, so I wanted to go about it the right way. Talk to the right people to make sure that I'm in the right and that I got the right permission. Thought I had permission, and now all of a sudden the new year turns around, the spring rolls around, start cutting. And now I have, when I start mowing, I am called into Mount Bay Metro for mowing the grass. And if you look through that report, also called in for my kids being on the cul-de-sac. And me and Jared, who were out in the yard mowing, watching our kids and mowing to keep the property looking nice. We were bagging it up and putting it away to be disposed of. So that's why I wanted to come to this meeting to make sure that we're going about this the right way. And I think as committee members, Weston residents, you would want to look where you live to look nice. Am I right? Where you want your neighbors and your property and your neighbor's property to hopefully look nice. Even though that is a county, Weston property, that it should be kept nice looking. So that's why I offered the two mow. As no reimbursement from Weston. I was gonna pay for it. Going through this for here
How long have you lived there?
since August of last year, so almost a whole year.
I don't know if this is for him or staff, when was the initial permission given to mow
Last year.
last year?
And there's record of that? Like,
Yeah, and Michael did give the permission. He remembers giving the permission, and we thought it was a fair compromise to say you could mow half and the other half would stay natural. We thought that would be fair.
And that's where it's at right now, yeah. Like, we're-
At this moment, we've just asked to
Can I
leave
show
the
you
lot.
pictures? Can I show you pictures?
I would love to see
Yeah,
pictures.
Just Googled it
He's got
out.
pictures also.
Yeah, can
But this is
Can you
of
pull up
the resident.
aerials?
I was trying to look in.
This is of what she is mowing past, where kind of what I've been mowing. But I stopped mowing because I was told to by, like,
Whoever, whenever.
yeah, whoever it was a couple weeks back or a month ago, that stop mowing until we have this meeting, which I did. And if you go by Onyx Hunt or Google Maps, her property line, like 15 feet from the edge of her garage, which she is cutting over. Yeah, and this is what is most good right now. I'll come back to it, what. Right where that trailer is where I've had it parked.
You're, okay, so you live there and
We don't have.
your partner live there?
Yeah.
Yep.
You see on the right side, she mows into that next driveway curb cut down.
You
So
see,
that's
The center of that lot.
that's a condo.
Yeah, split.
Yeah.
But you see to the left of this somewhat taller tree that there's a tree out there that actually has chicken wire around. To keep rabbits and deer.
This is a smaller one?
Yep, you see that smaller one that's about 10 feet from the road?
Yeah.
If you go to the left of it, there's actually a little tree there that has chicken wire and two T-post on it around it to hold the chicken wire out.
Those trees are actually planted on Weston's.
Yeah, that's what it looks like from county aerials. There's a lot of trees that are on.
Okay, what's your?
Side of the
okay,
lot.
you
So
have-
this
I
is
thought
what
there was.
is growing up right now. And I'll come back through with what,
Okay, so
my
that's
yard.
Barbara's house,
yep,
okay.
and that's as of today.
And is that
trees
mowed past her property line?
Yeah. Cause like where I said that one tree,
Yeah,
that was up close to the yard. Her only comes past like from her garage, it's only like 15 feet.
okay.
Is that running, Peter, can you
Oh,
zoom
I
back
see.
out again really quick?
Oh,
Thanks, I got good file photos. If you turn off parcel
Can you
annotations,
zoom out again really quick? It's not look more what's surrounding it, it's all residential, is any other open lots, or is it all?
No, it's all resident, yeah, it's all built.
This is what's growing up right now.
Retention ponds in the back.
I mean, I would.
This is my yard, this is where I was told to stop, cause that's roughly where the property line is.
click parcel annotations
My property line
Yep.
is,
under parcel info, and you'll get rid of the numbers.
that's growing on, this is my property line. where
Oh.
I was supposed to stop.
Okay, and so
My property line
east to west, that's a pretty accurate line
Property, growing up.
as far as location goes, because it's pretty much centered on top of that house. So
Property. Oh, that's.
there's a lot of trees that are on the west side of that property line
Mhm.
on our property.
Okay, Roman,
And that's where.
how does the trees get there? Just wild?
They don't look wild to me,
Well, that's today.
but the grass.
Yeah.
Click on that.
Well, that's why I just want to verify.
Yeah.
These
Jamie.
are something coming up on their own.
Yeah, click on one of the other
Because I
parcels.
think one of the things that's said in here is there were not to be any trees or
Right.
landscaping or anything
Yeah.
done on that
Go ahead
property.
and zoom in on it, but you can see that if you get rid of the yellow box, you can see clearly that on the west side of the property line, it looks to be pretty maintained on the west side of that property line where the trees are at.
Do we have other similar lots like this throughout the village? Like, is there any sort of consistency as far as like neighbors mowing them, not mowing them? Is there any rhyme or reason
There's
to that?
up in Sandy Meadows, so further back in the subdivision. There's a
Generally,
few,
what's happening with those? Are they getting mowed, just being left?
they maybe do it once a year when they have to go in and clean it out.
So there's no neighbors doing it.
No.
We actually had somebody a couple weeks ago offer to maintain a similar area because it was adjacent to their property.
And did we let them do that?
I think we were kind of holding off to see where this
Oh.
played out, but I mean,
Right now, also,
Everybody's ready.
you can't even go outside when it's starting to cool down, the mosquitoes and that, because it's holding water, there is a ditch cut through there for the water to run off. And pretty sure there's a good amount of mosquitoes, cause I unloaded my trailer last night, and felt like I was gonna be carried away by the mosquitoes. And I would say Jared would probably attest to it, that don't want the kids to be out too late. Or we can't sit outside because the mosquitoes are that bad coming from that extra property.
Okay, anybody else got any comments? Questions, concerns?
I do, I just wanted to make sure nobody else out there.
Mhm. Okay. And just state your name and address, please.
Jared Musil, 3004 Foxtail Lane. Foxtail Court, sorry. The only comment I had was the same thing that Cody had. The only problem I have is if we're gonna come to a decision, 50-50 sounds fair. I'm not a horticulture person. I don't know how many flowers bees need and stuff. I know it's important. I'm not that ignorant, but I think fair is fair. 50-50 would be ideal. She can keep her side and then we can, keep falling down on his side. But the biggest concern I have is when the cops show up or anything like that, it doesn't look good. And she's talking about, she doesn't like the renter thing. Calling the cops here more than anybody else. And then also just the filming of like our kids and stuff when we're out there, because she's trying to film us being, mowing the lawn for 3 hours, I think the claim was.
Yeah, and you were saying, sending it.
Yeah, stuff like that, I don't have a problem with her, I don't know her from my brother, so it doesn't matter, I mean, I just don't want her filming kids, my kids especially. That's all I have to say.
I feel the same way about that.
Anybody else? Any comments, concerns? What is? okay.
So, couple questions. Was this item put on the agenda by us? It kind of prompted by this whole issue or? Okay, and so everybody here was made aware by us that this meeting was happening?
Yes, I even triple checked with Valerie when the agenda went out that it got emailed to both property owners, and it did. And Weston from Planning and Development made contact with each property owner and said it would be on the agenda. That was, we didn't meet last month, so that was a couple weeks ago, but that's also why we triple checked to make sure that we had emailed it to both property owners.
And do you know if the owner at 3102 or resident there made any comment on if they were gonna come to this meeting or not?
I don't know if she made any comment that she was going to come. We
Okay.
had encouraged them to come.
I'm not saying we should do anything with this property one way or another, but what do we do regularly there that we need that access, or is it more just about the water running that we need that access to that?
It's just to maintain that storage area for the stormwater. So we have had the conversation about could it be a buildable parcel? But at this moment, it's been,
Can I address that, please?
Not on the agenda, so, yeah, sorry.
So I guess that's my question. I mean, it's a large lot. Would the neighborhood still maintain its stormwater and everything else if a house was put on that lot? Or if the parcel was just sold as public property and it was up to anybody else to use it as, I see it's still zoned as residential. Cause then my other question would be if we're gonna continue to use it this way, does it need to be zoned otherwise?
I don't think it needs to be zoned otherwise. I mean, it wouldn't be a requirement that it is. But, I mean, we did, when the conversation came up, we asked the question, we also aren't necessarily in the real estate market, right? I think that was just the kind of conclusion. It works well to keep the stormwater for this neighborhood. It's excavated that way, so.
Yeah, I mean, as far as my personal opinion, I have zero issue with us permitting neighbors to try to maintain a village-owned lot. I mean, it's no different than people taking care of stuff along the like bike paths and stuff. Like, you want your neighborhood to look nice even though it's not your land. And I think it's totally reasonable. I think we've done, or the staff have done a reasonable thing by saying like, hey, let's just try to keep it 50-50. So you kind of get a little bit of what you like, and you get a little bit of what you like. I don't think anything warrants us just saying we're not gonna do anything because of frustrations about aesthetics, I guess. I mean, it seems like we can be reasonable, and I don't think it's unreasonable to have somebody mowing it and taking care of it. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the other person just to leave it alone. So I think, yeah, I mean, as far as frustrations about the police coming there and some of that other stuff, I mean, there's little that we can do about that. That's something that you obviously would need to discuss with the police department and the police chief. They're gonna have to respond to the complaints that they're given and address them how they can, but. Yeah. That's all I got.
Following up with what Louis said there, like, I mean, I'm reading the comments here. This clearly looks to me more like a neighbor dispute about everything versus just the mowing. It just seems like there's, I don't want to say I've seen this many times over the years, but I've seen this many times over the years where they're upset and they just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks to try to find a way to get these people in trouble. Obviously, since she's not here, we have to kind of take, you know, her impression from this, from the written record in front of us, and then it just reads to me like she is upset at having the neighbors versus actually mowing. Because the only thing that she really mentions in here is that butterflies and bees are endangered. I'm not aware of any species of butterflies or bees that are endangered in the village of Weston. I could be wrong. But I agree with Luis in that, I mean, it's all residential around there. It's all manicured mowed lots. This lot sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't think it's unreasonable for someone to want it mowed.
I'm sorry, Katrina, just going back, I think it's even more important that we allow that because we hold other people up to we expect them to be mowing their yard and stuff, and yeah, we
That's
can't
true.
mow every parcel that
Yeah.
we own to that level. But the fact that we don't, I think it would be easier for them to complain like, hey, this is crazy over here, it's a residential lot and you're not doing anything to take care of it. And I don't wanna see us having to send people out once every 2 weeks to mow municipal owned lots, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I kind of agree along the same lines where the conversation could be turned equally that it is a residential lot essentially that is not being maintained. Like we would expect the residents to maintain their lots. We don't let other people, like other people's lots get overgrown. I can also appreciate the weeds that are spreading. I understand that there are some beautiful things that are flowering, but also those people want to maintain their yards and not have weeds being cultivated next door. Which again, in a residential area, I think is more the assumption that things are going to be more manicured than where I live on the edge of the village, and it's much more wilderness, wild-like. Also, I would add to the conversation that since Barbara's not here, she has posted on Nextdoor that she is moving. And so with that information, I don't see any reason why if we have somebody here that wants to maintain that lot, then I say let him maintain that lot.
Like the whole lot or just partial?
I would do the whole
I
thing.
would do the whole thing.
Well, that was gonna be my comment.
Yeah.
It's residential.
Yeah.
If,
And I think if we have someone that's willing to mow it, we should, I mean, there's rodents, rabbits, you name it, and that's all
snakes,
grass.
yeah, so
That it would be far better to have it mowed, and I do have some concern the fact that there's trees planted on it.
The only counter I would give to that is I can predict the future, which is the tenant there being upset that there's no clear line of where the lot line is. So it would be easy for the person mowing to accidentally cross into the other person's lot without it being very clear. And do we now have the police coming out there because, oh, they're mowing my grass now and stuff? And usually between neighbors who live next to each other, you just kind of figure it out and you see where your lines are. But I could see if he's doing the entire lot, that the person over there, especially if they're being frustrated, saying, well, they're actually now mowing into my grass.
Right, but where the trees are is ours. So if he quit right where the trees are, he's still mowing in our,
Yeah, no.
on our land,
So
correct? Am I? Okay.
Based on aerials.
Mhm.
where that little tree with chicken wire and the T-posts around it, I think she has it mowed till about a couple feet from it.
2013.
I don't know if you can see it on that one, but there is a
You
little
can
tree
kinda
with chicken
see,
wire around
yeah.
it. All these are 20 feet from the rock.
Well, there should be surveyor stakes in there.
I was gonna say, aren't there pins in the ground?
So
That,
they're probably not there anymore, but
So if you drop the
if you
little,
look at the plat of
little
this,
person on the street, so you get a street view, you can
Okay.
see.
there's a drainage easement shown on the plat that's in between lot 5 and lot 4. The village owns lot 4.
You can kind
And I think that's a good distinction, because yeah,
No, it's on the way, it's between the property lines.
Mountain Bay
So
will get called about that, so it'd be to have that distinguished line, I think will solve a lot of problems when she calls and says they're
Right.
trespassing, because they're not.
And where she can see where she cuts, so that must be what she is claiming is hers.
Well, that's why I was thinking with, I think it's Jeremy, you work for the police, Mountain Bay.
no, this is
So
hers.
that
She's way
would-
over here.
Be where that tree is, mowing there, that is where I could at least mow up to where that tree is. And I would be crossing over to where she has been mowing for technically over into the city or Village of Weston's property. For, even though she was told to stop. But I was just saying that if it was, that if she were to call in, that wasting Mountain Bay's resources by having somebody come out there when this has been handled at the village meeting, that this has already been taken care of, he is not trespassing. And that this person is in the right. If you see something of a crime of any other sort happening, you're totally justified in calling in, but this is something that I guess Mountain Bay could take care of by like, all right, is this over mowing or is this over actually trespassing on said property? And if I did mow that whole lot, let's just say if I did mow that whole lot, technically I'm not trespassing because I have not crossed onto her property line.
Right.
Because her property line is, technically goes right through her garden where she's got a bird feeder, technically.
So I guess, would it be easier to just, I guess, rather than make a policy about the exact dimensions or whatever, just say that we agree with allowing staff to work with the property owners to come up with like allowing the mowing? Like, we're okay with allowing the mowing and then staff can kind of direct where to do it, or do you really would you prefer that we give like specific areas?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I just have two quick comments. I've been through property disputes my whole career. I've dealt with them. I deal with them today. The best thing to do is we own the property, right? The village of Weston. Call Vreeland or Riverside, have them pin those two corners, get a stake in there. Once you put a stake in there, there's no dispute. Then I would just say, let's just all come with an unwritten rule, a 20-foot buffer, something like that. Call it good enough, and that's just what it is. It just makes our job easy. If you run over there with a mower, then we're gonna have to deal with it again every time you go there. If you leave a buffer on it, then we're all good and nobody can complain about it. But as soon as someone gets too close, that's gonna happen, but you throw a couple pins up, and Freeland's done that for us for free on a regular basis. I just come and re-up the 2 pins on the thing and you know exactly where that lot line is. Once the pins are in, there's no dispute. Can't say, it was 20 feet this way last time I checked. Here it is, we're done. So, otherwise we're sending one of many patrol officers out there and they start this whole process all over again. But can I just address one more issue?
Yeah.
As far as recording, there's nothing legally we can do about that. Just so you guys are aware about that. So, anybody can stand on their front porch and have ring doorbells or cameras. That's just the way life is. We're all recorded wherever we go, and there's nothing legal we can do at the police department for that. So, solutions I give to people, move. If you don't like your neighbors, you move. And I'm not saying that in any bad way. We've had disputes like this and people have moved and life is better for them. It happens. So you gotta learn to get along with each other. That's all I can say about it. So, but recording, anybody can stand in their house on their front porch, record whatever they want. There's nothing you can do. It's not a police matter. So, just so we address that.
According to you, she's moving.
That's what she posted on next door.
People make that threat all the time when they get in these situations.
I just looked up the post is on June 19th. She put a post that says, I am downsizing and moving and parting with things that are no longer necessary in my life, and she had some stuff for sale.
Have either Barbara or Amber reached out to village staff at all, like expressing why they don't want it mowed, or other than the contact we made with them, have they proactively reached out, asked any questions about it or why it's happening?
She's been doing this since 2013.
She did come to a village board meeting I think she came to Clips and she talked about the pollinators. Parks, thank you. I was like, she came to a meeting and she talked about the pollinators. And you can also see in the police report that she's had conversations with Trustee Wyland, that's noted in the police report that was included in the packet. Outside of contact with Dustin on our staff from in code enforcement, I'm not aware that she called in from the agenda or made any other contact.
Staff has had lots of interactions with her over the last many years.
So maybe a motion to recommend or whatever that we have the property
Surveyed.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Put in stakes or whatever Jeremy said.
I can talk to Vreden.
and just have that done and then, I guess.
Staff can work with a plan.
Yeah, because again, this would be a specific situation, it wouldn't be policy, it wouldn't, we wouldn't be changing code for it either, because our code says undeveloped lots don't need to be mowed. So this would be, specific to this parcel that we own. And I think the other piece is, you know, that if someday you don't want to mow it, or if you would indeed move, like it's
Just go back.
it goes back to our responsibility and it would be done as needed to keep woody vegetation off.
We would just be giving him permission to mow.
Yeah.
Without liability to the village.
Yeah. Or reimbursement or ownership.
Right.
Oh, I would make that motion as stated by her with the addition of making sure we notify the other half of this decision.
Yeah.
Not that, I'm sure that'll be a fun conversation, but at least she knows
With the letter.
with a letter or email, whatever, just so that maybe that will prompt her not to
Something
call.
not.
Yeah, not to
something in
call,
writing.
so I would say I'd make that motion just with the addition of, we notify her in some fashion that that was the decision of the committee.
Brent, do I have a second?
Second.
So, and just to repeat, to make sure we have it correct for minutes, we will have pins placed on property lines. We will allow the property owner to mow a reasonable amount over. We can have that conversation with them, but we are okay with having that property mowed. And we will communicate that with both property owners, both in writing, so they have it both in writing that that's what's being completed.
And then we've got it on record also. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Good
There's
question.
something that I'm just wondering, without that, with being instructed not to mow said property for how long? Grass is almost waist high. So I'm just wondering if the city would come out with their brush hog or whatever that they've been cutting it with, to at least knock it down. Otherwise, I'll be there mowing all day just to get that knocked down, which will in turn piss her off and have mountain bake almost. Because of grass being.
I don't think we need to amend our motion to do
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say,
Just that
can
they
you
can
guys
work with
discuss
staff.
that?
Yeah.
We'll discuss that with Michael in the morning and we'll see when we can
Yeah, I don't.
get out there.
Yeah, that's just the only thing I wanted to know, that if it at least gets knocked down from where it's at right now because of what I was instructed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, I think. Yes, Katrina. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? So carried.
thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Originally,
Let's make a comment.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead.
right,
Yeah.
originally I bought that lot. But I went to get a building permit, I had to go 3 of them over, I bought all 3 of them. from the developer. And when Scott Patriot was there, then he called me back and said, no, we can't get it for that. But really bought that from me because they wanted it as a detention pond at that point. But that would not be built at all, it's just not there.
Yeah, there's a memo in the file from Keith from 2013, kind of detailing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any announcements?
Every day.
You will. Thanks for coming in. Okay, remarks from committee member.
I have an announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a reminder, we do have a music series, an acoustic music series going on at Mockmuller through the summer. It's every Tuesday night from 7 to 8:30. So tomorrow night there'll be acoustic music and a food truck. We had a resident that's a musician and he organized all of these through the summer, and last week was the first one and it was really great. It was a wonderful night. Tomorrow we'll see how the rain goes. They are at Kelly Club. If it does get rained out, and we'll post it on our Facebook page, but otherwise I encourage, come out for music, free music.
I can send an email to all officials if you want me to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, what, anything?
All I was gonna say is, I guess similar to our last meeting, do you think we'll have enough agenda items to do a meeting next month, or do you think we should wait for 2 months again?
It would be helpful if we waited for 2 months, just because the next section of the nuisance chapter, it's nice to have that extra time. If the committee is okay with that.
So I'd be okay waiting until September for our next meeting.
Okay. Okay,
Just in addition to that, so if stuff like this does come up, I guess I would like to see us make sure we get that scheduled and not skip a month. Just because I'm wondering if not resolving that has resulted in more police calls or issues, because it has kind of lingered on now for the last however long. So I guess as we're skipping, I'm totally fine with that if we don't have them, but if something like that comes up, I guess I'd like to make sure if we need to hold the meeting, even just to hear that issue, I think that's probably important that we do that.
Totally fair, understood.
okay, John.
No further comment.
Okay. Nope. Okay, the only question I had, and I got a call on it because nobody could figure out where it was coming from. Did Arrow Bar by chance have a permit to shoot fireworks?
Don't believe so.
Okay, well, okay.
Is that who was?
Well, that's the only place I could think of. I mean, they had some fireworks.
I don't think we give out permits, do we?
We don't.
Yeah,
Okay, well, sometimes I know people have, if they were gonna have a big wedding, they wanted to have some fireworks and they have come to us and.
I think they have to go through safer for all that.
Yeah, I think so.
Not
Usually
necessarily.
a lot of requirements to be able to get those.
Yeah.
What day?
4th of July.
It was on
Well,
pause.
yeah, it was the whole weekend, but yeah, the 4th of July was,
Those-
Yeah,
those
just know,
things
because
are-
we were on the highway coming home from fireworks from Ozani and we saw them. And we were trying to
well,
figure out.
there was airport also
Where?
had.
Who in
the
Weston
airport-
is,
The airport had them too,
yeah, no, it was
because I couldn't
clearly
figure
in
out what
Weston.
that rumble was and then, but then later, not later, but then all of a sudden, and I'm going, and I could see it through some of our trees and I thought, oh, maybe Arrow Bar's got something going on, but yeah, it was quite a display.
It was, I agree.
Right?
That's what makes enforcement of that exceptionally hard is finding out where they actually came from, because, you know.
Well, the sound carries by,
Exactly.
I mean,
so
that wasn't the only place, there was
No.
some on the farther down Callan that was doing it too.
for
The
some
ones
last
that
night.
got me is those that blew off those loud.
Yeah.
Oh, poor dog shit, I thought you was gonna go nuts. Okay, I just was kind of wondering if they had, because I said, that's the only place I could think of that would have that kind of fireworks, but okay. That's all my remark. Next meeting, then we will have it in September unless,
we can go September and the first Monday is the first and that's Labor Day. Would
right,
be okay with going to September 2nd on the Tuesday instead, or? The other option, I guess, would be just to go a week earlier and go August 25th. I'm not supporting this, but the other one would be just to go until October unless something more pressing comes up. That would be October 6th.
there's no, what is the fourth Monday, what, is there any other meeting?
That would be
Parks and Rec.
Parks,
Parks and Rec, yeah.
but September does have 5 Mondays. So the other option would be to go to the 5th Monday of September on the 29th. But then you might as well just go to the
We
6th.
might- Yeah,
Right.
September 2nd, I mean, with that.
I'd be fine with either one of those.
yeah, me too.
When?
September 2nd.
would-
September 2nd.
Okay, September 2nd it is.
By then, it's like, okay, so next meeting then will be September 2nd at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And on the next regular meeting, we'll have proposed amendments to chapter 42 law enforcement.
She gave me the thumbs up.
It's on my desk.
Efficiency.
Is it on the top layer? Just-
It's in one of the many files.
Okay,
Baby steps, right?
okay, a motion to adjourn.
Well, that-
All in favor signify by saying aye.
I-
Opposed, so carried. We will adjourn at 5:54.